In this video, you'll see a tutor and a tutor trainer discuss and practice multisensory writing activities. Their focus is on generating ideas that stimulate writing rather than on the mechanics of writing. All of the activities are designed to put emerging or struggling writers at ease so they can experience writing as a pleasure and not a chore. In Chapter 1, you'll see the tutor and tutor trainer discuss the importance of introducing learners to imaginative writing activities they'll enjoy. In Chapter 2, you'll see them demonstrate an activity in which writers list words that describe the taste of a mystery drink. In Chapter 3, you'll see them discuss and write about a memory, feeling, or image that comes to mind as they smell freshly ground coffee. In Chapter 4, you'll see them discuss and practice descriptive writing that's inspired by touching an unseen object. In Chapter 5, you'll see them share stories about their personal photographs, first verbally and then in writing. In Chapter 6, you'll see them discuss why music can be a powerful writing prompt. They share memories about music before listening to an evocative piece and writing about the images it inspires. In Chapter 7, you'll see them evaluate the strategies.
Hello, Gail. It's really good to see you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well and happy to be here.
Oh, good. So, I know that you have some concerns because your learner is very anxious about writing, is very reluctant to write, pushes back whenever you try to suggest writing. And so you've asked for some ideas that might help your learner get over that barrier to writing. And so I thought what would be fun today is if we just if I talk you through 5 different writing activities today, and then we actually do them together. And so the whole idea is that a lot of people get nervous about writing. A lot of people get anxious about writing. Do you ever have any anxiety about writing?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. If I know that if I've told myself if I have a writing project that I need to finish, I can find so many reasons. So many loved ones I need to connect with.
To make that one call. So and my husband always knows when I have to write something, a big writing project, because the house is clean, the laundry's done, everything, I do everything possible to procrastinate so that I don't have to actually sit down. And even though I do a lot of writing for my working, sometimes I just sit at the computer, at the blank screen, blank page in front of me, and I don't know how to get started. I don't, it's just a paralysis. Mm-hmm. And so one day when I was not wanting to write myself, this idea of these writing activities just came to me. And I've used them, and people really seem to enjoy them. And we get some really good, fun writing. And so the idea is to build confidence, to build comfort level for anybody, but particularly for struggling or emerging writers. And so the idea of how do we start writing? And I thought, well, let's try using our 5 senses. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to have 5 different writing activities, and we'll use each of our senses to start doing that. So your learner, do you want to talk a little bit about what your learner's reluctance is or anxiety about?
It's just a matter of just basically getting your head into it. Mm-hmm. And if you are afraid of it or feel that you're not going to express yourself well or be good at it, then, or a lot of times you think other people are going to make fun of it.
And judge, right? Yeah.
Or not like it. Mm-hmm. And so you talk yourself out of it.
Mm-hmm. It can be much harder than reading, because with reading you're taking something in. With writing you're producing something, and that makes you vulnerable, right? You have to put something out that somebody else then consumes.
You have to think. You have to pinpoint your thoughts.
Right.
And you have to know how to express your points. You have to know what words do I want to use, and how to express, how to pinpoint that word in my heart or my feelings. And that's challenging and intimidating.
It is. Intimidating is a great word for that. And so this is precisely the purpose of these activities, because yes, some writing is harder than others, some writing is more challenging, but if you can get over that, and if you can see that writing can be fun, writing can be really stimulating, you could have a good time with writing, and you don't have to worry about spelling, you don't have to worry about punctuation and grammar and all of that stuff. This is a way to warm up. So I think of these activities that we're going to be doing today as sort of writing warm-ups to get our brain juices flowing, so that then maybe we can do some real life writing for, whatever, writing the job application or writing that email or whatever. That this is going to put us in good shape to get started on that. So is that something that you think sounds good?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll get started.
Okay.
So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to work with our sense of taste. So of what I hope is a fun activity. So today we're going to be sipping a mystery drink. Okay. And what we're going to do, I don't know if we need to shake it, but I will. And so we're going to sip the mystery drink.
Okay.
And then we're just going to write an adjective to describe the mystery drink.
Alrighty.
So, what's an adjective?
An adjective is a word that describes a person, place, or thing.
Absolutely. So just to make sure that your learner knows what an adjective is before you start this activity. So what we're going to do, super easy, I'm going to pour you some mystery drink. You may not need very much. Some people love this and some people not so much. We'll see what you think.
Alright.
So what we're going to do is we'll take a sip of mystery drink and we'll think about, what does that taste like? How would I describe that taste? And then we'll write one adjective. And then we'll take another sip and we'll trade papers. Okay? And we'll write a second adjective. We'll do that 5 times. And so by the end, we will have tasted 5 times and we will have written 5 adjectives. And then we're going to talk about what we wrote.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Cheers.
Here's to you.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to see what you wrote. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I write vanilla and you write chocolate. That's great. That's why I choose this mystery drink. It's so cool. Okay, so this is our final adjective. So we got to make it count. So this is so interesting. Now we're going to read out what we wrote.
Okay.
And so it's a combination, obviously, of my ideas and your ideas. So the adjectives to describe the mystery drink: cookies, sweet, chocolate, wet. That's all that came to mind. Rhubarb. Interesting. Rhubarb. Wow. I know. What do you have?
Okay, and we got caramel, nutmeg, vanilla, brown sugar, and complex.
It just comes to mind because it's not one taste.
Right.
And at the beginning it tastes one way and then it changes. Why did we pass the papers back and forth? Why didn't I just say, okay, Gail, taste your mystery drink and write 5 adjectives?
Sharing. Sharing and ideas flow and help you to absorb information, get new ideas, and run with it.
Exactly. It was just, as soon as I saw that you had written brown sugar, oh my gosh, she's absolutely right. It is brown. That's what I was searching for.
Yeah.
And so your idea then stimulated my own. It's like, oh, it's brown sugar, but it's also this other thing.
Yeah.
And so, you can, by looking at other people's writing, then that can inspire your own writing.
One of the things that I saw yesterday, which reminds me of this, I was at the circus yesterday, and they have gift shops, and they have a T-shirt that reads, "Helping each other to soar."
Oh, that's
because
wonderful.
with the trapeze,
That's really
they
neat.
depend on each other for the grasping and the relaxing, helping each other to soar, and that's what the sharing does.
Oh my gosh, that is a wonderful way of putting it. Absolutely. And that's it, especially when you're working with a struggling or emerging writer and they've never had the sense of accomplishment. They've never had writing be a positive experience. It's always been something scary or negative because somebody's like, your spelling's wrong, or you haven't expressed yourself well. And this is our job is to help our learners soar and to see that you can absolutely take flight with these fun writing activities, and you have a lot to say, right, that's worth putting down on paper and sharing with others. So and then why did I have it be a mystery drink? Why didn't I just show you, hey, we're going to drink this?
If you can see visually and read what you're going to be tasting, you prepare your palate and your mind for that taste, especially if you've had it before. Whereas if it's a mystery, you get to create your own flavors and interpretations.
You are so much deeper than I am because I did it just to be fun. And have it be, it's like a game, right? I mean, but I love what you just said, and that's absolutely true. Everything you said is right on. So, so are you curious?
I know what it is.
No way! Seriously?
Yeah, I've tasted it before.
Tell me.
It's sweet tea.
It is not.
Okay. It's ginseng tea.
No.
Okay, what is it?
All right. You can do the unveiling.
Surprise me. Ta-da!
Nobody's ever had this before.
Really?
Some people
Probably
have,
something
but
from
not people
Trader
that I've done
Joe's.
this workshop. No, you have to go to an Asian market.
Oh.
And the first Asian market I went to didn't have it.
Oh.
And you know what? You don't have to do it with this drink. You can do it with
I don't
anything.
have to be me.
You could. It doesn't have to be a drink. It could be any taste. I just choose this because it's a really weird, complex white gourd drink.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is fun? Maybe not with white gourd juice, but maybe some other interesting flavor that you're just using the sense of taste. Do you think that this might be something that you could do with your learner?
Definitely.
And have fun? And do you think your learner would be responsive to it and that this would be a fun way to get started on writing something?
I'm not really sure about her, what we talked about earlier, about her ability to be able to succinctly pinpoint flavors.
Right.
Like the flavor of caramel.
Mm-hmm.
If she's had, she might have had caramel before, and maybe she hasn't. Or nutmeg or any of these things. But I could try it.
Right.
We could try it.
That's true. And you said that she sometimes has some challenges in maybe articulating what she's thinking or feeling.
But those are things we're working on right now.
Right. And so that might actually help this. And you can always, all of these activities are endlessly adaptable. And so if you think, you know what, I might help my learner to say the adjective before she writes it, add that in. It's whatever is going to work for you and your learner. So, well, good. I'm glad that you think that that you could use it. Thanks for being so game. A lot of people would be like, I'm not going to taste something that I don't know what it is.
If you're going to try it, I can try it.
All right. Thank you.
You first.
Exactly. Thank you, Gail. So Gail, the second activity that we're going to work on is using our sense of smell. Okay. So I've chosen coffee because it's so aromatic, and a lot of people really have very powerful feelings about coffee. Mm-hmm. Either they love it or they don't like the smell of coffee or the taste of coffee. And so usually you can get some really good, strong feelings about this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sniff our coffee and really enjoy the aroma of the coffee and think of a memory or an image or, just something that comes to mind as we're sniffing our coffee. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to tell each other about what we're thinking about, what has come to mind as we're sniffing our coffee. And then once we've told each other our stories, then we're going to put our thoughts down on paper. And so it doesn't have to be a book, but it can be whatever. It can be random words, it could be phrases, it could be complete sentences, it could be a paragraph, a poem, whatever. We're not going to worry about spelling or grammar or punctuation or any of those mechanics. This is just to get our thoughts on the page. Okay. And so what do you feel about coffee? Is coffee, do you enjoy the smell of coffee? Do you enjoy the...
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I love the smell. I love everything about
So we're going to take our bags.
Okay.
We're going to open our bags.
All right.
And we're going to inhale deeply.
Okay.
And we're just going to really enjoy the aroma. This activity works much better if the coffee is freshly ground. So as close to when I'm doing the activity, that's when I grind the coffee, because then it's really strong and the aroma's just bursting forth. And if you do it even a day ahead of time, it's just not that powerful, wonderful aroma that you're looking for. So that's my recommendation to you. Okay. Is an image coming to mind? Either an image or a memory or some...
I'm remembering mornings in San Francisco. Cold, crisp mornings. Crossing the bridge, the Bay Bridge. Back in the day, there was a bakery. Today it's called La Boue. Back in the day, it was La Petite Boulangerie. And they had the bakery inside the store. And you could see the loaves of bread and the muffins and the croissants and then all the various delectables and delicacies that went with coffee. And the smell of the coffee was this flavor, was this smell, this aroma.
So when you think back about San Francisco and crossing the bridge and going to this wonderful place, when was that?
It had to be in the 80s, the mid-80s.
So that's what I love about using coffee for this. You could use anything. You could use popcorn, you could use peppermint, lavender, whatever. But what I love is that sniffing this coffee for just a few moments takes you back decades and just really brings you back to that moment. And I've had this experience with different people, going back to childhood and their grandparents, in a farmhouse making coffee, or when I've worked with learners who have grown up in coffee-producing countries. They have some amazing stories to tell about their family members who were involved either in the coffee industry or, just something. And so it just seems to resonate with a lot of different people. Thank you for sharing. That was. I feel like I was there with you in that. Shall I tell you about mine?
Sure.
So mine is actually, it brings a feeling more than a memory. So, shall we write now
Sure.
about what? So, again, it doesn't have to be precisely what we talked about, but if you can write whatever it is, and, depending on the level of your learner, it might be 3 words, or it might be phrases, or it might be a whole paragraph or more than a paragraph. So, we'll just take a few minutes.
Okay.
Again, don't worry about spelling, don't worry about punctuation, grammar, any of those mechanics of writing. The idea is just to get those wonderful warm feelings that we have in our brain out onto the page.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So it looks like you've got some good writing there.
Yeah, and I had a hard time writing, printing. Upper, lower.
I know, and that's one of the things when we're tutoring, we have to be really mindful of.
Yeah, things
it's
we've
really
gotten lazy
hard.
about.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
and I teach a class, and I have to be really careful when I write on the board to be legible, and to make sure I'm using appropriate capitalization and upper and lowercase, and that I'm not running my letters together, because it makes it so much harder to read. And we're modeling, right? We're modeling writing, and so I know. So once you get in the habit, it's easier. But I know that's something that we really have to pay attention
I found
to.
myself writing even smaller. Yeah.
Do you want to read what you wrote to me?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
This coffee makes me think about San Francisco and the hustle and bustle of city life, and of feeling safe and welcome in the morning. I think of a specialty bakery with special breads. It makes me feel happy and alive.
That is wonderful. Wonderful. So we could stop there. You could finish it for homework. If you were the learner, you could do it. It's totally, as you're working with your learner, you would get the sense of, do you want to continue this? Is this something that you and the learner are really enjoying and that you could go forward with? Or is that enough? And that's enough. And again, I wouldn't look at spelling. I wouldn't do any corrections. This is just about getting the thoughts down on paper. So thank you for sharing that. That is really...
Well, thank you for letting me do it, and I see where I misspelled a word.
So again, in another kind of lesson, then we might talk about that. We'll talk about, what do you do if there is a spelling mistake? Do you address it, or do you just let it go? It depends on the purpose of the writing. It depends on who's going to see the writing. So, lots of different things. But for right now, I don't care that you misspelled a word.
Okay.
You shouldn't, absolutely. That's not, the main thing is that the idea's down there. So.
What did you write?
Oh, okay. I wrote, when I smell the coffee, I feel contentment. It brings to me the sense of being nurtured. As a treat, my husband and I take turns getting up first and making coffee. As I'm waking up, I hear the espresso machine and the aroma of coffee wafts from the kitchen. I feel so pampered when my husband brings me my latte in bed, which isn't as often as it should be, in my opinion. But it's delightful when it does happen.
Yeah.
So how did this activity work for you? Do you think that you could do something similar, or this very activity with your learner?
I see myself doing it. I see myself doing it right away.
Oh,
because I get excited. And I love to be able to share what I've recently learned with my learner. It keeps her coming back. It keeps her enthusiastic and focused.
Excellent. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. So, and again, you can adapt this in any way. Okay. And, sometimes you can adapt it spur of the moment, right? So you have different steps that you might follow, but it's always changeable. It's just, go with whatever feels right at the time. So thank you again for meeting with me, and we'll continue our conversation with the other 3 senses when we meet next.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Hey, Gail.
Hi, Kathy.
It is so good to see you again. So we talked about 2 of the 5 senses. These activities are sort of meant to be endlessly adaptable. They're meant to warm up your brain, your learner's brain, to get you really thinking about different things that you can do that make you more confident, that make you more comfortable, that take the anxiety out of writing, that really make it fun.
Yes.
And get you ready to write for more real-life activities that you really need to do, that you might be more anxious about. And so rather than saying, okay, we're going to start our lesson today, doing that resume, right? or writing the note to your child's teacher or whatever. And it's
Or filling out that job application.
Exactly. Let's touch something in a bag first and get our creative juices flowing. Yeah. And we're calm and we're feeling good about writing, and now we can move on.
Well, I can try this. Whatever it is. I'm going to try the mystery bag next week when I meet with her.
Excellent. Okay. Are you ready to do it?
Yeah.
For all of these different 5 activities that we're going to be talking about, there are steps, because there are strategies to do this. And so we've got the 7 steps to this too. So this will make it easy when you want to try this with your own learner.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're not going to look in the bags. Okay. I went through and got odd things from my house, which is so easy to do. And I put one item in the bag, and then I asked my husband to put something that I don't know in the bag. So it's a mystery for me too. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're not going to look. We're talking about a sense of touch this time, okay? Feeling instead of looking. And so we're not going to look in the bag. We're going to just put our hand in the bag, and we're going to touch the object. Okay. And we're going to start describing it. And so remember, we talked about how it's much easier to think, speak, write. It's an easier process, okay, neurologically. And so instead of just, okay, I'm going to put my hand in the bag and I'm going to feel it and then I'm going to write directly, we're going to describe it verbally. We're going to describe our object. And when we do that, we're going to think about, what is the texture? What is the temperature? What is the size? What is the shape? Funny, sometimes when I've done this, people feel a color. They're like, it's blue. It's like, really? Wow, okay. And so we, think of all those different elements as and that will help us describe. So this is a way to get into descriptive writing in a fun, comfortable, stress-free way. So why don't you feel what's in that bag?
All right.
I will feel what's in this bag.
Okay.
And what we're going to do to help us, because the more senses that you can involve in learning, the more your brain is activated, and so the easier it is for you to process information and to sort of get your ideas out. And so we're going to also listen to our own descriptions. And also because I have a really poor memory and I won't be able to remember what I described, so that then I can use what I described verbally to describe it when I'm writing. But so we're actually going to record ourselves as we're describing our object, so that we can put all our attention on feeling the object and not
worry about trying to remember.
No, we're trying to worry about remember. Okay. Would you like to start, or do you want me to start? What do you think?
I'll start.
Okay. All right. So start your recording, and don't look. This is not about the sense of sight. This is a sense of touch.
Okay, we're on recording.
Okay.
It feels like a claw. It's metal. Gee whiz. Feels like something I'd want to scratch my head with. You know how you get a certain itch in your head? Good heavens. Feels scary. It's prongy and metally, and it's got kind of a little sharp part on it that would snag, wool or silk or something. I have no idea what it is.
You've done a great job describing it, though.
It's got a flat part on it, kind of like it feels like it would be an imitation spider or some kind of an insect with legs and a flat back.
All righty. You have some good fingers there. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to play back the recording so that we can remember what it was that you said, and both of us are going to write. So we're both going to be listening to the recording of your fabulous description, and then we'll both write at the same time.
Okay.
And then we'll have 2 copies.
All right.
So we can each keep one. Okay, it is time. You did a fantastic job of describing, and you are closer than anybody's ever gotten. Do you want to take a peek?
Okay, because I saw your eyes light up when I said it feels like it's an imitation spider. That's exactly what it is.
So you got it totally without awesome. Looking, just using your sense of touch.
Yeah.
I could have said, okay, here, Gail, here's a spider. Describe it.
Yeah.
So why did I put it in the bag and make this silliness out of it?
To open up your mind, make you think, connect mind with fingers, with touch, and the imagination gets awakened.
So many things. So it's a simple little trick, really, to encourage writing and make it fun and not stressful. But you're right. So it's engaging touch, and we know that a lot of our learners really are tactile or kinesthetic learners, and so that sense of touch, that movement, really helps their brains, right, engage. And so that's one way. And also, again, it's just fun. It makes it a game.
Yes.
Doing that.
Yes,
so, great. Okay, so my turn. I don't know what's in this bag. All right.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yes.
No idea?
No.
Okay. So look, I could feel the writing.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and then the ridge,
and
the rim.
Yeah, you could feel the white.
And this part's higher, and that's lower. And then once I got it, I was like, where's the hole? Where's the hole?
Okay.
So we are not going to correct what we wrote.
Okay.
Right? I noticed that I don't know how to spell medley. I don't know if there is 1 L or 2 L's. I have no idea. And you know what? It's not important. I'm not going to go to the dictionary. I'm not going to look it up on my phone, because the important thing was to get our words down on the page. We don't care about spelling. We don't care about grammar. You had some, I think, sentence fragments or phrases.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, we're not going to say, oh, you didn't complete your sentence there, and you didn't, capitalize or whatever. I noticed you missed some punctuation. In this kind of writing, no, we're not. We're just doing it for our own pleasure, for our own fun. Okay, and so there's no place in this kind of writing. If we wanted to do something with it, so it was like, hey, this is great. This description, there's a contest or there's something, and we wanted to work more with it, then yes, maybe then we would talk about grammar or spelling, punctuation, that kind of thing. But not now. When I work with a learner, I always try to work on and make sure that we're doing some speaking, some listening, some reading and writing in every lesson.
Yes.
And so I try to look for activities, or I try to create activities that integrate all of those 4 skills.
Yes.
And I think we both listened to each other as we were talking and telling our stories. We listened to the recording, right? And then, were we to read this out loud, right? We both sort of read what each of us had written silently, but we could have then added a step and read it out loud. And so again, we would have been listening. But so we're reading, we're writing, we're listening, and we're speaking.
Yeah.
So that little activity, that fun little activity, incorporated all of those different skills. Okay. So what do you feel about this activity? Do you think that it's, maybe you wouldn't do something as scary as a spider, but do you
I
think,
don't know.
do you on Halloween, do you think on, that your learner might enjoy
Yes.
doing something like this?
Yes, I
And
do.
that you could use it as a warm-up activity
Yes.
to do some other writing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Good. And why do you think your learner might enjoy it?
She's open.
Mm-hmm.
She's open to learning new ways of expressing and coming out of the rut that she's found herself in, growing and expanding her awareness, her self-expression, her self-appreciation.
That's important. So, good. I think you can have fun with this.
Yes.
So I'll be eager to hear how it goes. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
Okay, so the fourth writing activity that we're going to talk about is the sense of sight. Okay, so a wonderful way to inspire writing is with an image, right? And so we have a learner look at an image, and we talk about the image, and then we write about the image. And so writers do this all the time. Professional writers use images as inspiration for writing. And so you could look at any image. So the internet is just an amazing resource for trying to find, just really powerful, interesting, evocative images. And so you can do some searches online, or I often find wonderful images in magazines, some books, picture books. Just sky is the limit in terms of powerful images that inspire writing. So even though there are all these tremendous images online or in books or just in magazines, what I like to do when I'm working especially with emerging writers and maybe reluctant writers is to start with something much more personal and much more close to home that they have really strong feelings about. And so I think pretty much all of us have phones now that have pictures. And they're pictures from our lives. So we know that we're going to be interested. We know that there's going to be some resonance there because there are pictures, right? And they're on our phones. If you happen to be working with a learner who doesn't have a smartphone or phones, you can always ask them to bring in pictures from their lives, or a photo album or something like that. And choose a picture to share with you verbally and then to write about it. And so, again, when we're working with beginning writers, we like to use things that are familiar. So it's a comfort zone issue, right? Yeah. And so you've already showed this photo to how many different people? You've already told how many different people about it, right?
Yeah.
And so that familiarity breeds comfort and confidence. And so that's how we're going to do this exercise. So it's writing from an image, but it's writing from a personal image. Mm-hmm. So do you have a picture on your phone that you would like to share with me and write about today?
Yes, I do.
I can't wait to see it. May I see it? Oh my gosh! That isn't you.
That is I.
Is this Halloween?
It was for Halloween all month of October. And so they put you in a room, and it's your room, it's your haunt, and it's all dark, scary lights and this, the sound effects and what have you. And you wear a costume, and you get to choose whatever kind of makeup you want. I decided to get rid of the werewolf and just do all black paint and just my eyes would show. And I would jump out from behind a fern and go, "Rah!" or and it worked.
Oh, I bet.
I had a great time.
I bet you did. So that is a wonderful story. That is just that one image just gave us all that material to write with, which is fantastic. So the tricky part is taking all of those fabulous ideas and that wonderful story and then getting to the real kernel of that and the real meat of it and writing one paragraph.
Okay.
And again, you and I are going to write a paragraph, but maybe our learners are going to write less than that, whatever they're comfortable with. So you just would judge that in terms of your learners' writing abilities, and you want this to be a fun, not taxing activity. Okay, so think about what you want to write. Okay, and now may I show you my picture?
Absolutely.
All right. So my picture
Is this you?
That's me on Christmas Day.
Oh, I love
And my
it.
mother gave me a book about dogs. And so I'm sitting on the couch surrounded by my 3 dogs. That's Marley, that's Baxter, and that's Howie. And I don't know if you can see him, but he sits on the back of the couch and his head is hanging down, and he's helping me read the book.
He loves you.
He does love me. He's
Does
my
he give
baby.
you his opinion of what he's reading?
Oh, for sure. He gives me his opinion all the time. So I think I would like to write about this day and about this moment because it was just so cozy and warm and fuzzy and delicious.
What were you reading?
A book that my mom had given me.
Dog is Love.
She gave me a book about dogs, and so I thought it was appropriate. I might send it to the author because there I am with my dogs.
I love your family.
Thank you.
That is so cool. I love your house too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And so I now am going to need to think, okay, so what aspect of this photo, because I could write pages and pages about this,
you could.
but what aspect do I want to write about that?
Well, you could start with how cozy and snuggly you look in that nice, warm-looking robe.
That was a Christmas present from my friend. So, and maybe that's the theme, snuggly and warm and comfy and cozy. Yeah. Okay. So now we are both going to write. Okay, so we've shared our ideas verbally. Again, we've warmed up our brains, and we've done the thinking, speaking, and now we're going to do the writing part.
Okay.
So we're just going to write a paragraph. And then we'll share what we've written. We'll read what we've written to each other.
Okay.
It looks like we both wrote a lot of good stuff. So, would you like to read yours to me?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. The title is Life is Scary and Fun. Being in the haunted house as a werewolf and then as a ghoul was the most Halloween fun I've ever had. But being with all the other actors was the most rewarding because everybody knew me and liked my work.
Interesting. Very nice. And so, did you see how what we talked about was a sort of preamble, right? An introduction. And so what you wrote was actually quite different because you'd had some time to think about that. And then what you actually put on paper was you went in a different direction. and that's totally wonderful because you needed that time, that thinking time and that speaking time to sort of bring up that memory and to get the ideas rolling around in your head. And what do you think you might be able to do? That we could just say, this is done, this activity is done, it's great. Or what do you think you might want to do? Is there anything you might want to do with that first paragraph? Would you want to go further with it?
Oh, for sure. Now, it's interesting because as you were speaking, I got in my own perception why I switched.
Oh.
And the reason I switched was because it's okay. It's one thing when we're in conversation.
Right.
It's very informal, it's very personal, it's more intimate. But you put a piece of paper in front of me with a pen, and then it becomes formal. And anybody who writes, even the most seasoned writer, lots of times a blank piece of paper is daunting.
Sure is. Yeah.
So, I could see, it didn't occur to me that I had switched until you brought it out.
Interesting.
But that's why.
And, that is a really interesting point that you make, because there is so much history and so much baggage that so many of us, even proficient writers, bring to a writing task, that even though we've done all these fun, and we've had all this discussion, and we've done all these fun things, and to try to eliminate that, it's still there.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why it's so important for us to do everything we can, because it doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can just be what it is.
Yeah. So for me, using the recording is a big help, because then you can go back into that moment. Say, oh yeah, I remember that now. So this is valuable.
That's really good to know. Thank you for that feedback. But this is great, because I can see that you could go on. This is a wonderful introductory paragraph, right? Because this then would be the lead-in to more, right? I could see, several pages where you actually start, and then I would ask questions. It's like, really? So, why was it the best? I'd want more details about, it was the best Halloween ever. Why? What happened? And then so many more stories to tell and write about, okay? And then being with all the other actors, oh my gosh, I'd love to know their stories.
Yes.
And how did you do things socially with them after, right?
Yeah.
So much to write about. And why was it rewarding? And everybody knew you and liked you. So in some ways you got some really, positive feedback, and that made you feel good about yourself. So we could explore so many different themes from this one paragraph, from a very short discussion of one picture.
Yes.
So it really, I think, shows the richness of the writing activity of writing from an image. Okay. Yes. So, and again, it would be your choice. Maybe you would want to write this in a journal. Maybe you would want to write this in a memoir. Maybe you would want to write it. I think it would be a wonderful, magazine article. What a cool thing, right? I would love to read about this in a magazine article. Yeah. And so, lots of different things that you could do. Okay. So, I took a slightly different tack. So, say I had a scrapbook and I wasn't there to tell somebody about this picture, and they looked at it and I wanted them to know what was happening. They could read this and they could know very simply what was happening. So again, it's just a very simple piece of descriptive writing, and it is very, very informal. Okay, not terribly interesting, but it tells what's going on and sets the scene. So may I read it?
Certainly.
Okay. This photo was taken on Christmas Day. My mom gave me a book about dogs, and I was reading it on my couch. All of my dogs were snuggled around me. Marley was napping on the floor. Baxter was stretched out on the couch beside me, taking up more than his fair share of the space. And little Howie, my baby, was behind me on the back of the couch helping me read. So I took your cue, I think, from the warm and fuzzy, and that was the sort of sense that I wanted to portray in my writing. So again, what did you think of this? Do you think that your learner might enjoy writing from a picture from their phone or from a photo album? Or
I think it would be a great way to introduce them into being comfortable about expressing what's going on, the discipline of being able to narrate what's happening in the picture, and to bond. Oh. Tutor learner, something about you, something about me, to break down any barriers, or because to look at me, a person wouldn't know what my background is. When you look at someone and they're all, put together, you get a perception of them. you have no idea what's going on in their life or where they're from, what their background is, you know. So this, and with a tutor-learner situation, you don't want to get too close.
Right, there are boundaries, but it's a relationship.
But you want
it's
to
a
get to a
partnership.
place where that person knows that you are a human being too.
Right.
You put your feet, your slacks on the same way they do.
Right.
You know? So, yeah.
That is thank you for bringing that up, because, again, writing can be, as you said, a very bonding thing. And part of what is so important in the tutoring relationship is that you trust each other. When you're writing, you're really putting yourself out there. A lot of times our learners have been judged negatively about their writing, and so it's a safety issue and a trust issue. And so in order to build trust, you need to get to know each other. You need to know each other's, and it's yes, you want to have some boundaries. You may not be best friends, but the tutoring relationship is a very special relationship, and getting to know each other, and photos is a wonderful way. Well, good, okay, and I think now we're ready for our fifth writing activity, which is hearing.
Okay.
All right, so we're ready to do our fifth writing activity about the senses. And so this one is about our sense of hearing. And so you probably know that music and rhythm is really powerful, right? I cannot remember what I had for breakfast yesterday morning, but a song came on the other day, and I swear I hadn't heard it for 30 years, and I sang every word to it without a mistake.
Isn't that marvelous?
It is, because it's the rhythm, right, and the musicality of it. And so that same power of music we can use and harness to do some great writing. And so you can use any kind of music that you want. You can use hip hop, you can use rap, you can use country music, you can use classical music, you can use anything you want. I have chosen today a piece of classical music because it's very melodramatic, very powerful. I'm sure you'll recognize it. It's been in a lot of movies for very dramatic scenes, and so it brings out some, I think, some really good images. I don't know about you, but there are certain songs that when I hear them, they take me back to a time of my life. I'm going to date myself. But so when I was visiting New York, it was the Bee Gees' Stayin' Alive song. And I remember, exactly, I remember looking out of a high-story window in Manhattan, and people were walking, and you could see the people walking, and the Bee Gees' Stayin' Alive song was playing in the background, and it just kept coming on and on. And it was like a soundtrack to my life. It was like a soundtrack to those people walking.
Yeah.
So now every time I hear Stayin' Alive, it takes me back to that moment of being in New York with my girlfriend in high school and looking out the window and seeing people walk in, and it was like they were walking in step
to the music,
to Stay Alive. And so it just takes me back to a long time ago when I was in high school. Do you have any music or songs that do that for you?
Oh yeah, lots of it. She used to be my girl. She used to be my girl.
And what memory does that bring back to you?
My first husband. Yeah, and I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. You know what? That is such a good, because sometimes it's really positive, happy, wonderful memories, And sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
You know, and you spoke about your learner using the word bad, and maybe trying to get to expand that vocabulary. But and this is something that you, when you're writing, you really need to think about the comfort level and your relationship with your learner, because some topics that you may think are completely harmless may bring something up. I do a writing activity with some of my learners about for Mother's Day, about mothers, and I guarantee somebody cries every time. And that's not a bad thing, right? Because then but it's powerful, right? And so, and those are good things. It can be cathartic. It can be really healthy and productive to write from those experiences. But we also need to be prepared for that. And so, yeah, negative, positive, but powerful kinds of things. So let's listen to a piece of music.
Okay.
And sometimes it helps to close your eyes, because what we're going to try to do is to let the music bring up an image or a memory, or maybe let the music be a soundtrack to a movie that's going on in our head. So one of the skills that we really want learners to have, and not all learners have this, is the power of visualization. Visualization really helps with comprehension. If you can get a mental image, a picture in your mind, and to make that movie so that when you're reading, when you're writing, you see a picture or an image in your mind, right? And a lot of our learners don't do that. And so this is an activity that really helps with that, but it also, the music itself inspires us, and we see an image, we have a feeling, and then we're gonna write about it. Okay. I chose this piece of music. I've used it with lots of learners, and it just seems to really bring out people's emotions, and it brings out some really great writing. So it's a very powerful, dramatic piece of classical music. So it's long. So it's about 11 minutes long, and that's okay, because for the first few minutes, you're probably not going to start writing, right? You might want to take some time and just really sort of get into the mood and let the music sort of carry you away. And so don't feel any pressure that you have to start writing immediately. So just enjoy, maybe close your eyes if that's something you're comfortable with. Make that image in your mind, or the movie, and start writing when it feels like the right time for you.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. How was that for you?
Sort of melancholy, but dreamy, kind of twilightish, you know, to put you in a zone. Anywhere you could go, just anywhere all at once.
Dreamy, I like that. Yeah, it's so powerful because it goes up and down, and it's sort of joyous, and then for me it became a little frightening or a little tense, or something. The atmosphere changed and was highly charged, and then dissipates again and becomes a little calmer and resolves.
It has a sensuality to it.
It does, doesn't it? Doesn't it? And I've listened to this how many times, and I've written how many times, and each time a different image and a different movie plays in my head. And it's very interesting when I do this with a large group of people, the variety that you get. They're all dramatic. Some people write poems, some people write narratives. The variety is quite something. So what did you write? Was it a poem? Was it a paragraph? Was it just words?
Well, I skipped to 3 different scenarios,
Oh, interesting. Uh-huh.
kind of like a vignette.
Uh-huh.
And the first one, I got a vision of a Spanish senorita in her veil with the comb, and she's by a stream. She's in a sense of reverie. She's, letting her hand dip into a stream or a well, and she's lingering a lost and dreamy reverie of her sweetheart. And the next one is of a mother with a baby in her arms, and she's rocking her baby, her sleeping child, and she's humming a lullaby to the sleeping child. And then the third one was, I think of the ocean. We talked about the beach. And you're either on a boat or a ship, or you're just on the shore, and, the ocean is there, and it's sunset, and the sky is putting on a technicolor of color, purple and lavender and pink and orange and blue. And as the music plays, it gets darker and darker, so that your mood becomes more and more similar.
How interesting. So the 3 different vignettes, all very different, very different. The change in the music caused that shift of an image and of the movie in your mind. Very interesting, very interesting. So, I want to hear you read that too. So for me, and you talked about how you think that we talked about earlier about the ocean, and so that you had that in your brain already. And for me, because when I've written about this before, it's always been about people. And often it's at the beach or at the ocean. And this time, because I had been reading about wild mustangs being captured in horrible helicopter roundups and put in holding pens, and it's a horrible situation, I read about that again this morning, and that was on my head. And so suddenly there were no people. This was all about wild mustangs.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah. Would you like to read yours out too?
I'd like to read yours. I mean, I've been doing all the reading all the time.
Yes, you have. You've been doing all the work.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to. I might get a little emotional because it's a really
Well, that's okay. Did you know that tears are nuggets of gold from the heart?
No, but that's beautiful.
So you shed your tears.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So it was a windswept plain on a scorching hot day. There was no one in sight. Suddenly, a Mustang wandered into view, proud.
So, Kathy, it looks like this is something that is a little touchy for you. So.
It's something. And I didn't know I was going to have that reaction with you.
You never know.
I don't, and it's just something that's it's really powerful and something I feel strongly about.
Okay, well, we'll put that off for another time.
Okay.
And do something else right now.
Thank you.
Okay,
thanks.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Sure.
Could you read yours, though? Is
Sure,
yours less?
exactly.
Thank
Sure,
you for
at this
being
point,
so.
I'll read.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe next week I'll
be more
but
prepared.
it's very. But yeah, so I think I'd like to share it with you next week.
All right.
But maybe not. I don't know. We'll have to see. How's that?
Play it by ear.
But I would love to hear yours.
All right, so mine is, as I described it, a Spanish senorita by a stream or a fountain, daydreaming, lingering, lost in a dreamy reverie of her sweetheart. Scenario number 2, a mother with a baby in her arms, rocking back and forth, lullaby humming the babe to sleep.
Beautiful. And I saw it too. I saw these images as you were reading. And it's interesting because this time what you wrote and what you said were much closer.
Okay.
Right? Did you notice that?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
But then I was cheating. When I was talking, I was cheating.
You were reminding yourself. So, again, what do you think this, we wrote a lot, but I've had people actually just write a few words, and it was equally powerful. So do you think that, not necessarily this piece of music, but do you think that using a piece of music as inspiration for writing with your learner might work?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you'd use this music, or would you use a different type? What kind of music do you think might appeal to your particular learner?
I might.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure it's something she's not heard before.
Right.
And when you hear something new, it's wonderful to watch a person discover something new that's always been there that they never really paid much attention to before. Yeah.
That's great. And I think if it's something that your learner enjoys, you could bring it, do it a few times, right? And so maybe months pass and then you say, let's try it with a different kind of music, or maybe ask the learner to bring in some music, and it's new for you, perhaps.
Yes.
So, well, good. So again, we're not caring about grammar, we're not caring about spelling, punctuation, any of those mechanics of writing here. It's just getting our ideas on the page, and then we may leave it at this. We may use it for another activity and go forward with it. So it's just completely up to us. So very, very versatile activity. Oh, what skills? What skills did we, in terms of reading, writing, listening, speaking, vocabulary?
Engaging imagination. Fine-tuning, listening. And with this piece, one of my favorite instruments is the guitar, the acoustic guitar.
Spanish guitar.
There's something romantic about it for me. So the skill for me with this exercise was engaging the listening skills, closing my eyes to visual, and connecting with the tones. The tones we were talking about earlier, connecting with the tones, and if you look at it, if you think about it, your mind can make your visual dance to the tones that you hear in the music.
I like that dance too. I noticed you closed your eyes. Did that help you?
Yes. Whenever I want to hear something, I close my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, sometimes it really does help make that visualization possible, the image. And again, that's a skill that this writing activity really works on, making that picture, making that image, making that movie in your head. And sometimes it's easier to do that with your eyes closed. So. We've gone through all 5 of our senses. So now you have 5 writing activities to do. Do you feel like all of these activities are non-threatening, sort of anxiety reducing? Do you think that they're a fun way to sort of, I know your learner's been reluctant about writing. Do you think that these are, at least some of them, are effective ways to?
I do, yes. Whenever we're together, I have her write. But with encouragement and enthusiastic, loving encouragement, and telling the person, you can do this. You have a writer inside you waiting to come out. You just have to let's go beyond the initial bad angel, good angel. Okay? tell that bad angel, shut up, sit down, and hold on.
Exactly, because so many of our learners, that's been their experience with writing. They have turned something in and they've gotten red pin, wrong, correct this.
Yeah.
And that is not what we are doing with our learners, right? It is about positive and asking more questions and tell me more about that and what you can do to elicit more writing rather than correction, perfection, right?
So what I do is we read together, and then I have her write her perceptions about what we read. What do you remember about what we read? Why is this important? When did this happen?
It's another great writing type. So you read something and you respond to reading. And again, that really reinforces that reading and writing go hand in hand. The more you read, the better you write. The more you write, the better you read.
The more you write, the more you own what you've learned.
I love that. That is wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I've just enjoyed working with you, and I hope you enjoy working with these.
It's been a pleasure.
These activities.
Yeah. You got more?
I do.
Let's do some more.
Thank you.
You've just seen a tutor trainer and a tutor discuss and practice a variety of activities that use the senses as a starting point for fun, stress-free writing. In all of these activities, the focus is on encouraging learners to become more confident, enthusiastic writers. The goal is for the writer to express their thoughts, feelings, and memories freely, without worrying about spelling, grammar, punctuation, and other writing conventions that can discourage writers.